Well, there is that big discussion about packaging. We know plastic is not good. We know that we're literally drowning in plastic. The plastic bottle, unfortunately, might be the best solution because...
This week on the Powerhouse Diaries, we have the female founder who is on a mission to save every drop of water. So she started an innovative beauty brand of her own called Dust&Glow.
I finished my email for 3 hours after giving birth. I was so worried because
after years in the corporate beauty industry, she decided enough was enough. She needed a change, not just for herself, but seeing how this industry interacted with the world, with the environment, and with the people was just no longer aligning with her core values.
I completely underestimated at the beginning. I got caught into, I need the products and I need the branding, I need the packaging, and I need to build the website. And then I hit launch and I thought, oh, what do I do now?
She's on a mission to not just save water, but truly change the face of how communities that are struggling with water can operate and take care of themselves and each other.
I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror when I'm, let's say, 95 and not regret what I've done. I want to be able to see my kid, my grandkids, and not be like, sorry, I screwed up.
I am very excited to welcome to today's episode, Gaelle Thieme. Welcome to the Powerhouse Diaries, the podcast for and by brave, bold, and badass business owners. If you're an entrepreneur who has outgrown those cookie cutter business strategies and hashtag girl boss cliches, you're in the right place. Because let's face it, entrepreneurship is at least equal parts messy buns and runny mascara as it is the highlight reel we see online. So let's get real about what it really takes to build and run a quote-unquote successful business, blood, sweat, and margaritas included. I'm your host, Gaëlle, your rebellious entrepreneurial fairy godmother, and join me as I sit down with rockstar female founders for the most juicy, deep, and meaningfuls around success, life, and everything in between. Now it's time for you to step into your powerhouse era. Gaelle, welcome. Welcome to the Powerhouse Diaries. I am so excited to have you here today. Let's dive right in because you started Dust&Glow based on a vision that most people probably would have said you were crazy at the time.
Sure did.
Not would have, they said. Tell us about that. Tell us about that moment where you're like, I have to do this. And then the many moments after where you were like, how did I get here?
Yeah, so it didn't happen overnight. So I worked in the beauty industry and I guess I worked for mainstream brands, some of the big guys. And at that time, I wasn't really environmentally aware. Let's say I had access to lots of beauty products and I kept using them. Then I transitioned to some natural skincare products, worked for another brand for quite a few years. But at the same time, I had a baby and I became more and more agitated towards pollution, plastic, parabens, silicones, and all the things we are not really aware, or at least we know products, but we don't necessarily know what they do to ourselves. And I was quite lucky. I went to quite a few international conferences about pollution, plastic, and what's are going to be the next big thing. And the lack of water is going to be really, really important in the next 10 years, 20 years, unfortunately, because there is not enough drinkable water on the planet at the moment for all of us.
That's just a mic drop moment in itself when you realize, we go about our days and that's already the reality now.
Yeah, so already right now, there are billions of people that lack access to water and it has consequences for everything. So first for just everyday life, because you need water and drinkable water for hygiene reasons, but then also most women, it's impacting mostly women because women in the countries where they don't have water are the ones in charge of gathering the water, which means that they walk kilometers every day to gather the water. That means that they don't work, that they can't look after their kids. And so it has like a massive ripple effect on everyone. And the reality is there is 80% water in your shampoo.
80% water in a bottle of shampoo?
Yeah, so that's why you buy a big bottle of shampoo, or semi-big, like kind of that size, but it's filled with 80% water. So we are putting water inside of a bottle, then shipping it to you, so it goes like all around the world.
The carbon footprint is incredible.
And then it goes into your bathroom, and then you use it in your shower where you already have water. So we're basically just shifting water around. So for me, how it started, had all of that in my head. I was passionate about innovation. I have a background in product development, and I love coming with some of these crazy ideas. Some of them are just crazy and they will never turn into anything.
Who knows? Some people would argue that this was a crazy idea once upon a time.
Yeah, so I was at a place where I wanted to do something different. So I was climbing the corporate ladder, working crazy hours, and I was turning into a person that I just didn't like. I was stressed out all the time. I was at zero patience. I was snapping at people faster than I would have liked. And I was just drained. And I also realized that I wanted to do something differently, and how I really wanted to do them without compromising on anything.
And was there like a moment? Because I remember, for example, I had a very distinct moment where I kind of had this out-of-body experience. I saw myself. I had just ended up in hospital with emergency surgery. My agency was like thriving. I had like 20 staff. I was super like you, the little patients, very disconnected from anything that mattered, including my body. So I just come out of hospital. I just had emergency surgery the night before. And I was, I think, released from the hospital at like 6 a.m. And I had a meeting with one of my team members that I needed to fire because his contract was up, and if we didn't end it that day, it would renew for another year or something like ridiculous like that. And I went into the office, still bleeding from my abdomen, 4 hours after being released, maybe 6 hours after just being cut into. And I had a moment, and I sat across my fancy big boardroom table. And he was quite down. I think his grandmother had passed away. Like, this is really like not my proudest moments, like one of the lowest moments. And I had to sit him down, or had to. I mean, I'm sure there were a million different options, but at that moment, I couldn't see any other. Sit him down, end his employment with my team. I was still like fresh out of hospital. And I had this moment of, who the fuck have you become? Like, who are you? Where is the humanity? Where is the compassion for him, for yourself? Like, I was so far removed and got so caught up in it. And that moment for me was the first of many little wake-up calls that eventually led me to radically transform my life. So I'm really curious that noticing that you were becoming a version of yourself you didn't really like. How did that happen? Because when you're so caught up in it, you often don't see it.
Yeah, I think there were warning signs. I think from a body point of view, I suffered from migraines for 10 years. I was on a very heavy daily treatment. And what most people didn't know is every Friday from 3 o'clock, I would crash and literally be in bed Saturday or Sunday. And all of that was generated from a lot of reasons, but mostly stress. So I will kind of keep going all week, crash, sleep, and then restart, which is not healthy. And then there were two big moments I remember from a personal point of view. The first one is, and it sounds really bad when I think about it, I'm like, oh my God, why? I gave birth 6 weeks early, mostly because I was running around and a bit stressed out and whatever. But the day I gave birth, I was so worried because I was not on mat leave yet. So I finished my email for 3 hours after giving birth.
Well, I feel you.
I'm thinking that, but how stupid was that? But that's what I did. And I remember my husband was like, what are you doing? I was like, well, I need to make sure everything is finished, that my team knows what they're doing, and I need to give him back the laptop. And I was like, no. So that was one. And then 2 years down the track, so went back to work, still working crazy hours. And one Sunday, literally, my husband and I exchanged our baby at the airport. So I was going away overseas, he was coming back, and we literally handing over the baby.
Oh God!
And now, like when you think about it, now it makes me smile because now I go and pick her up and do lots of activities and things like that. But at the time, I was just like, that's almost an out of body experience. Like, why? What are we doing here? It just doesn't sound right. And it wasn't every day, but when you sit in that moment and reflect back, you're just like, no.
And sometimes, sometimes it needs to get so extreme where it's so jarring, where you think back, otherwise you don't see it. If it's subtle cues, you just kind of push it aside. I think one of my favorite stories that a random man in Bali once told me, actually, where I went at the beginning of my kind of spiritual awakening, if you want to call it that, after that incident of having to come into the office right after the operation. And he said, the universe first sends you a feather, then a brick, and then a bus. And the feather is like a soft whisper. It's like a nudge of, I know something's off. And if you don't listen to that, at one point, you get the brick. And the brick kind of like slams you in the face and it hurts, but you recover. But if you then still don't listen, the bus comes. And when the bus comes, it completely flattens you. And I think sometimes those moments need to be so extreme, like a bus, where you're like, okay, now I have to make a change. But I can imagine that's quite a shift from being a absolute, let's call it recovering workaholic in a corporate environment with all the pros and cons that come with the big business, to not just starting your own business as in, let's do something that's kind of a proven concept. No, let's completely innovate, change the game, and just change how we do beauty and wellness, and save the planet while we're at it with a young child. Because
and that has lots of challenges. I think the first one for me is when I created Dust&Glow, is because I have a background in product development, I could have created any beauty product. Type of. You just need great scientists, a great third-party manufacturer, and here you go. Because most formulas are kind of a repeat. There is a formula for a moisturizer, and you change ingredients, you test them. I'm simplifying the process, and then you get a moisturizer. But I wanted to do it in a different way. Otherwise, there are plenty of products out there. I wanted to do it without the water, without the plastic, without the parabens, without the silicones, all vegan, without perfume, without fragrances. So it was just...
You made it easy for yourself.
Really easy. And then I tried to find a manufacturer, and I was quite lucky. I already knew most of them because I'd have an established relationship with them. And they were like, no. And I was like, what do you mean no? Because also when you work in beauty, and New Zealand is a small industry, like people... kind of knew me, or I thought they did. And then suddenly you're just like, it's me, but I'm on my own, and that's my crazy idea. And they're like, no. And I was like, okay. So I tried.
So how do you deal with that when you have this vision and you just get kind of the doors slammed in your face over and over again? How do you maintain the vision?
Yeah, so I think for me, the first thing, because all of that also happened during COVID, when I think all New Zealand decided to just create a product in their kitchen, which also wasn't easy from a third-party manufacturer. So what I did is I tried to create the formula first by myself, because I knew if I was coming from the get-go and telling them, here is that really crazy idea, I have no clue how we're going to do it, but that's your task, that I will not go really far. So I got to a stage where it wasn't amazing, to be fair, but the shampoo was washing my hair, and I could see the potential. I could see that I was onto something. And then I literally rang every manufacturer, got one that I already had an established connection with. They said yes. And then long story short, it didn't work out. So I went back to another third-party manufacturer, booked a meeting, brought some croissants.
You are French.
Sometimes you do what you need to do. And I told them, I was like, I'm not leaving until you say yes. So they did say yes. And And to be fair, they have helped me create amazing formulas. But yeah, it wasn't easy. And along the way, every single step has been a challenge. Like finding a manufacturer, a supplier of aluminum bottles, making sure nothing is shipped in plastic. They're like, but everyone ships them in plastic. Like,
That's not a reason.
Yeah, and I was like, well, if I'm buying on purpose aluminum bottles because I don't want them to be in plastic, I don't want them individually shrink wrapped in plastic. And they're like, but why? It's like, oh, gosh. So sticking to the vision is the hard part, especially when you're a small player, especially when you don't have massive budgets. It makes all of that more complicated, and you have to fight all the time. We could argue, is it fair that small brands have to pay more for packaging? Do they have to pay more for ingredients? They have to pay more for everything along the way.
That is insane. And I can so resonate with every step of the way being a fight. I mean, I think that is true in business overall, but when you are innovating, when you are creating, when you're going outside the norm, and you're a mission-led business in a world full of big corporates that are just like looking for the volume and the numbers and the money, that just don't have the buy-in into the product, that can be a challenge. And where do you go for support? Like, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, and I think that was the part I completely underestimated at the beginning, because I think I got caught into, I need the products and I need the branding, I need the packaging, and I need to build a website. So that kept me busy for quite a bit of time. And then I hit launch and I was like, oh, then what do I do now? Yeah. And I know it sounds irrational, because I am a marketer by trade. I've done a bit of sales, but I think that was the part where I kind of forgot that the hard work is not to create the product. That was almost believe me, the easy part. And because it was also post-COVID, I wasn't back into an office. It was just finding that support was not easy. And when you launch a brand, your friends, your family at the beginning, they just think, what's your little thing, or your hobby, or your
cute little business.
How many times I've heard, how's your little business going? It's like,
oh,
not
God.
Little.
It's terrible.
And finding also people that get it, because I think as a small business owner, you also get in the front line of when somebody is grumpy, when the post office destroy your parcel, when like all these small things that they're not massive problems, but sometimes you need somebody to listen to you.
Yeah.
To make sure that you kind of get past it and go back. Like for me, I really see it as a roller coaster, and sometimes you're really high and the next minute you're really low and you just need to get back.
Yeah. And I think that's important to remember, right? It's like the only constant we have in life is change. And if it's going really well, enjoy it, amazing. And we know that's not going to stick around all the time. And the same in the opposite direction. When things are really rough, keep in mind, it will also keep changing. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Because the only thing we know for sure is that things will change again and they will shift again.
And sometimes I wish you could streamline things or push them a bit, because it's really, I find it, for me, I think everything comes in three. So I've had 2 years ago, in the same week, I won 3 awards. I was pumping. I was like, yeah, that's amazing. It's like, God, give me time to be able to really hype it up, do a bit of publicity about it. And because it's like, okay, all done, now it's done. And now let's move to the problems again. It's just please.
Well, and that's the thing. It's something I've been actually talking a lot about recently. We do this thing, and that's no judgment, because I completely get that, where you're like, oh my God, this is great. But hold on, it's also, the great things can be a lot. But we do this thing. Someone was telling me the other day, the way she described it was like, we pray for a cake, or want to manifest a cake, or whatever you believe, whatever you want to call it. We want a cake. And then the universe provides, you know, flour and eggs and butter. And we're just standing here like, but where's my cake? You know, because it doesn't look like the way we envisioned it, or it doesn't come in the timing we envisioned it. And then all of a sudden it can feel overwhelming, or we just don't recognize it as an opportunity. So yeah, it's a funny principle to be like, yes, we want the abundance and we want the growth, but not like that.
For me, that was a big shift because I had to completely rewire my brain. I was used to putting a target, getting a goal, getting to a higher target, and when I started and I did the mistake, it wasn't a mistake. I did apply to a few like accelerators in New Zealand. I learned a lot. I was surrounded by some amazing mentors and other business owners. But I think I got into what I know, which is more, faster, you will get there. Yes. And like some of the discussion were always like, okay, so you need to raise money, you need to find investors, and you need to go to the US, and you need to do all of that. And initially my brain was like, yeah. And then suddenly it hit me. It's like, yes, maybe, if I want to, when the time is right, when it financially makes sense. And when I realized that, I slowed down, and I also allowed myself to slow down and do things in a different way, because I left that world because I didn't want to be hamster on a wheel.
Yes.
And I was recreating the wheel and the hamster by myself, but yes. It took me a while. And so I went back to having a part-time job. And by doing that, I also met an amazing person that's also a mentor, has helped me along the way. But it also gives me perspective. It also gave me some reinsurance from, financial point of view also that I was doing. And I'm doing things at my own pace. Could I do it faster? Yes. Could I do it faster and live how I am living right now? Most likely not.
Yeah. And that is really powerful, because so many of us, and like I have been definitely guilty as charged in the past, we are chasing this cookie cutter version of success that isn't even ours. We don't even really know why. It's just like how we've been programmed, the more growth. And even worse than that, there's no end game. Like we don't actually know, we don't define it. Like it just always needs to be more and better. And standing still is dying. And what I've learned is that I've done that, and it means absolutely nothing if you are being run by your business instead of your business running you. If your business decides and dictates how you feel, who you be, what you experience, instead of it being a vehicle for who you want to be and how you want to live and what you want to experience. But making that shift from when, after years and years of being programmed and doing things a certain way, I can imagine is hard. And I can imagine from time to time you catch yourself falling back into like the old way of thinking.
Yes, and I've been guilty of that. And I've been lucky. I've met a few amazing women along the way that have helped me sometimes, or not slow down, but think about my behaviors and why I was reverting back. I think it's my default position. Yeah. And I've also joined the gym.
It's important.
Yeah, but it's important, like for me, because I wasn't taking care of my health before. And then now by suddenly being in a routine, going to the gym most days, it's also my way of slowing down and taking some me time. And now I know, like, when there is a decision where I'm uneasy, I'm like, you go to the gym, you come back, and usually I see clearer.
Yeah.
Because it's just allowing myself to sit with that feeling. I've also learned along the way that usually if I sit with a decision, it's not the right decision.
Yeah, exactly.
I should just not do it.
It's true. I was saying the other day, it's like there's no such thing as a fuck maybe.
Yes.
You have a full body fuck yes,
yeah.
or it's a hell no.
Yeah.
But if you're like, I'm not sure, then it's a no, or at least a no, not for now.
At least it's not a yes. So
exactly.
It's kind of like, let me sit with that feeling a bit longer, but it's not a yes. Maybe it might be right in 6 months, in 2 years, in 2 days, I don't know, but right now it's not a yes.
But I can imagine there's a bit of a push and pull and a dichotomy going on, because on the one hand, you have that newfound awareness of what truly matters to you and the will to slow down and want to grow this business, but not at all costs. And on the other hand, you have a huge vision, a vision on your heart for the planet, for the people using it. And that vision also demands you to show up for it and bring it to all it can be in any moment. How do you hold that point of tension between, well, basically changing the world in your way, and slowing down enough to listen to your body and to be present to all the things in your life that are important?
I think I'm learning that I can't show up to the world if I can't feel good first. And I never knew I will even get there. I have to say, even my family is making fun of me because I just turned 40, and for a wish, I asked for a wellness retreat, and they were like, "Are you sure? Like, are you like, what's wrong with
is
you?
Is this still you?"
It's like, and they're like, "Are you going to do yoga and stuff?" It's like, yes. Not that I'm any good at yoga, but yeah, I think I'm just learning that I can't pour from an empty cup, and I had an empty cup for a long time. Oh, not fully empty, but not full.
Yeah.
And now I need to first fill mine, and then I can do the rest. Like, you know, if I'm stressed out or not well, I can't focus on the vision anyway.
No, it's so true. It's so true. I just speak to so many women that have this deep belief where they know rationally it's not true, right? We all know you put your own oxygen mask on first. You can't pour from an empty cup. But that there's something really selfish in that, right? That is something, that's just kind of indulgent. Do you run into that in your business, where you run into people that are not quite understanding you daring to march to the beat of your own drum?
To be fair, I've been avoiding some of the networking events and things like that. I've learned in the last few years that I'm more an introvert, and I need my me time and I need the quiet. I can totally go do a conference, talk to people, not a problem, but then I need to recharge my batteries. And initially, I was really worried about what everyone will think and what was everyone thinking and wanting me to do or not do. And to be honest, I just don't give a damn.
Yeah.
I let people do their thing, and I do my own, and I'm trying to promote something different. I'm trying to promote that you can use products that are natural, that work, that are better for the planet, that you can save on plastic. They can also be New Zealand made. They can be super practical. You can have pretty hair, and you know, and it's just,
you can have it all.
Yeah, you can have it all. Not all at the same time usually.
Exactly, that's it. Yes. Okay, so you can have it all. You started this during COVID, playing around in your kitchen. You have found some sort of balance, or at least your version of what works for you now in this season of your life with the business. What's the legacy? Like, what is the dream? If you were like 100 years old and looking back and washing with the Dust&Glow products, your beautiful silver hair because you're so wise. What is the legacy that you want to leave with the world through your business and through who you be?
I don't know if I want to leave a legacy. I think I want to be able to look at myself in the mirror when I'm, 80, 85, yes. 95, let's say 95, and not regret what I've done or what I haven't done. I want to be able to see my kid, my grandkids, if she has some, who knows, and not be like, sorry, I screwed up. So I think it's more what I don't want to do rather than what I want to do. So it's just because, I'm hoping, and it sounds weird, but I'm hoping that in 10 years, we might not even need to use water at all for some of our beauty products. They might be able to just cleanse without even using your shower.
I love that. I love the way you just see a world beyond what is available now and just think in possibilities.
And there might be also different ways. Some of the ingredients I'm using right now might not work for in 10 years or in 20 years.
Yeah.
There's that big conflict at the moment with some of the natural ingredients is while they're natural, maybe some synthetic alternatives might be better for the environment. At the moment, I'm choosing to go down the natural path for a lot of reasons, but we need to also factor into account that maybe technology in some cases is better.
Yeah.
So it's
it's weighing up like when something might be better in this in the ingredients and the nourishment kind of from the product point of view area, but then the sourcing of it or the shipping of it or whatever may actually cause more damage than you're saving by opting for that route.
Well, there is that big discussion about packaging at the moment. Is we know plastic is not good, and we know that we're literally drowning in plastic. Most people, if you ask them, they would tell you that glass is a better alternative. Reality is a bit more complicated than that because glass is super heavy. Glass, yes, can be recycled, but it's also requiring lots of energy. So it really depends on, yes, your glass bottle is better if you're refilling it and if you're refilling it a lot of times. Otherwise, the plastic bottle, unfortunately, might be the best solution. So it's not black and white. And I think on everything in life, it's just like what is right, what makes sense, and what can we do better, even if it's one thing at a time.
And then how do you know because it's not black and white, because it's not clearly cut, like this is the better option, how do you make those decisions? Like where is your litmus test, your compass when navigating such kind of treacherous terrain?
Yeah, well, for me, plastic has been a no from the get-go because I found some materials that were better. But I think I've been trying to stay open with my customers on telling them that's the current solution. If I find something better, I will move and improve. I have a funny, not funny story about my initial packaging because everything is also coming in refills, so you can reuse your aluminum bottle and refill it. The first lot of refills that I got, so they were all home compostable and biodegradable. Amazing. Yes, they biodegraded so quickly that I lost my first carton of patches.
No. Oh my God.
They literally, so they were doing what they were supposed to do, right?
Yeah, but just whilst they were still being shipped.
Yes, so that was just like, well, that's not quite working. So there's not a black and white, like at the moment, there are lots of things with mushroom and algae that is coming. I also read something really interesting with pineapple skin, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So anyway, so I want to be open to whatever solution could become next. The challenge, though, is it's the small businesses that are pushing for these innovative ideas, not the big guys, not the governments. So we have to push, try, fail, learn, and try again.
And how do you relate? Because you've come from the big guys, you know how they operate. You also know what it is that moves them, which I'm sorry is often just the bottom line overall, not the individual people in the companies, but overall that is, how these big corporates function and survive. How do you stay so driven, knowing it feels kind of almost like a Goliath, right? Like a big bad industry that you're going up against. How are you fighting that, and how are you staying the course when you know that, like you said, it's the small guys that are in the end paying more and paying the price? How do you navigate that?
I think the reality is doing things well will always be more expensive. So that's the challenge there. And I think there's some amazing indie brands everywhere, not only in beauty, in food, in fashion, that are kind of trying to unlearn the standards and pushing the boundaries and kind of looking on the outside and say, hold on, it's not because you said no that it's not possible. It's just like, how do we get about it? So I think it's more encouraging anyone that has some really strong values to kind of stick to them and kind of push. But it's not easy.
No, it's not. If it was easy, everyone would do it. But I love the word you just said, the unlearning. I think that's a really important part. Also just in our own, I don't know, becoming older and coming of age. And there's a lot, I think it's a lot more about letting go of things than it is about, adding new stuff to it. It's a lot of unlearning of old programming and old ideas. What is one of the most kind of stubborn things you had to unlearn and let go of in order to get to where you are today?
Saying and doing what I think people want me to do. And that's when I was talking about the incubators and the accelerators at the beginning, where it's just like, you need to show ambition. You need to show that you're going to do billions and all of that is going to happen in 6 months and you're going to do that and that. It's just hold on a second, what do I want to do? And I might not want to do it that way. Like, I've been told I need to launch way more products in my range. It's like, oh no, I mean, if the current ones are working well, if there is no massive gap, why do I need to have more products? Because the overall existence about Dust&Glow, it's having less. So why do we always need the next product? It's easy to pump products to market. I mean,
relatively easy. Yeah.
So it's just about doing less and doing it right, and kind of, so sometimes I still kind of get, I recently got somebody that told me, oh, you should have done it the other way around, where you add water rather than powder. And there's lots of reasons why I did it that way, but then it got me thinking, and I was just like, did I do it wrong? Maybe, I don't know.
And so what is that even? What is wrong? And what is right? And who decides that, right? Who's the boss of what's the right way? But saying, I think can be so tempting, especially people you look up to be like, oh yeah, right. But then how do you take that moment, and how do you discern what is your truth and what is not?
I think it's finally, took a while, I came to the conclusion that I can't be everyone's cup of tea. And I need to focus on my people. And even if my people are, that small, doesn't matter. I can't please everyone. With my story, with the products I'm doing. Recently, some people say, oh, I like a fragrance, and I don't want products that are fragrance-free, and I only like coconut. And the other one's like, I don't like coconut. Like, well, yeah, of course. We all like different things. We all different individuals. That makes sense. But no, I'm like, that's what I am. That's what Dust&Glow is. And if some people don't like it, that's totally fine. But if I can encourage quite a few people to make the shift, great. Mission accomplished.
Yeah, beautiful way, and a beautiful reminder, I think, for everyone out there. Before we move on to like a little bit of a rapid fire session, if you were to look back, was there, like, I always talk about, like, what's your most fabulous fuck up? Like a fuck up that in the moment seemed maybe like the end of the world, but in hindsight gave you so much of learnings.
Oh, I've done a few. One that was quite embarrassing was I approved a print campaign on outdoor billboard in New Zealand with a spelling mistake in the middle.
Oh my God.
That was quite fun.
Well, that's it, but you're French. It's fancy. It's bougie.
No, funny enough, I didn't do the mistake, but I approved it, so I guess, I mean, that counts still as mine. So that was one. What else have I done?
So, but what did that like teach you anything, or did you change your approach afterwards, or it was just like a moment of like, oh God?
Well, I did change my approach in a sense that now I always get everything. It's still old school, but everything printed before it goes to final prints, because when you see it on paper, funny enough, I'm usually really good with spelling. I think it's because I'm French, I read every single word most of the time. But yeah, I did change, like, even when you're in a hurry, even if you're late to approve something, print it out, read it, and literally just go for it and get a few people to spell check for you, especially when it's on a billboard campaign. No, I've had a few fuck-ups where I'm really good at seeing what the issues are in a business, not mine, but other ones.
Other people's businesses.
Yeah. And being able to say what's wrong. Unfortunately, not everyone likes being told what's wrong.
Yes.
So I think what I've been learning, also being by myself with launching the business, is staying true to your core, but also potentially delivering things in a different way. But it's also because I'm a different person than I was. So I think I've also...
Yeah, just softened.
Yes, softened.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Okay, let's do some rapid fire questions.
What do you have for me?
You can do, we go quickly. You can do pass if nothing comes to mind, but let's just play this game. Okay, be honest. What is the biggest beauty industry scam that people still fall for?
Mist toners.
Mist toners. Oh
it's
my
just
God.
water with a spray.
And we're trying to get rid of it. Okay. If you had $1 for every time someone told you, but waterless beauty won't work, what would you spend it on?
I will create a new category that I've already planned.
Ooh, drum roll. This is the cliffhanger. Now we all want to know what's happening. Your brand is all about sustainability. What is one eco-friendly thing you totally suck at? If Dust&Glow had a Tinder bio, what would it say?
Oh my God. I'm too old. I don't know. I've never had a Tinder profile. I have no clue.
I've got one. You have to make it wet yourself. What's the weirdest or most unexpected thing you've learned about the beauty industry since starting your business?
How hard packaging is.
Oh, yes. Okay, let's settle this. What's the most unnecessary beauty product people need to stop buying?
Wet wipes.
Oh, yes. If you could steal any brand's marketing genius for a day, no consequences, who are you robbing?
I don't know. None of them.
Yeah. What is your absolute pet peeve when it comes to sustainable marketing?
Companies and brands exaggerating their sustainability claims and making you feel like, I see a lot of things about this bottle can be recycled. It's like, yeah, no kidding, but just nobody recycles it, so who cares?
Yeah, good point. It's the greenwashing that does it for me. What's one thing you've totally winged in your business that somehow worked out?
Everything.
Perfect. And last but not least, if you had to sell Dust&Glow in a room full of skeptics in just 5 words, what would it be?
Your shampoo, but better.
I love it. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this. We have this little tradition here at the Powerhouse Diaries that at the end of every interview, we kind of flip the script. So do you have any questions you'd like to ask me?
Yeah, I guess, like, what's your advice for women that are trying to make an impact, for them to kind of stay true, keep on track, and make the biggest impact?
I love that question because, well, we were talking about this earlier, right? It's so hard to do the right thing, in the meaning that you go against the grain, to follow your own kind of internal nudge, because the world is kind of built for the norm, for the standard, for the masses. So I think there's a couple of things that are super important. If you're impact driven, one thing I find a lot is that in the world of just sustainability and doing good and sharing your gifts, whatever that may be, there's almost judgment. There's almost a stigma on success. It's kind of like the opposite world, where in the corporate world, it's all about the numbers and the money and like the quote unquote success. There's almost a belief that if you're doing well for yourself, you know, you're doing something wrong. That's not, it's a little fruit coming to say hi. Okay. But yes, so if you're doing well for yourself, you shouldn't be. There should be this suffering. And I think it's really important, first of all, if you're an impact-driven entrepreneur, like you said, to remember to fill your own cup and to remember that you are at the center of it all. So the more you actually reach for those success milestones, the more impact you can make, right? There is a correlation between income and impact. And when we make one wrong at the expense of another, we're actually blocking the flow of abundance overall. And then, you know, keep coming back to your why. Why is this important? Because like we've heard in your interview, like I've experienced in my life, and every female founder I've ever spoken to, there is a certain level of insanity needed for entrepreneurship and keeping on going, especially against all odds, especially if you're going up against the big giants and doing things the hard way. So making it about the vision more than about yourself, because we're always going to have our fears. We're always going to have our, oh, I don't want to show up on social media because, you know, I can't do that, or I don't like it, or whatever it is we're scared about doing. If we make it about us, we will always stay small. But if you really are an impact-driven entrepreneur and you believe that your business, your product, your service, your message, whatever it may be, has the impact to potentially positively impact one person, just one out of the 8 billion walking this planet, then it's not just an option, it's your obligation to bring this to the world. And it makes it so much easier if we make it about them, the person or the cause we're doing it for, than sometimes it is to do it for ourselves. So yeah, I would say keep that vision front row and center and let that lead you. Because, you know, for ourselves, it's a lot of obstacles to overcome, and our brain and our ego throws a lot of very, very compelling stories our way about why we should totally stay exactly where we are instead of go after our dreams. Awesome. Oh, Gaelle, thank you so much for coming over. I really, really enjoyed this. For anyone listening, check out Dust&Glow, check out Gaelle. All her details, all the handles and schmandles will be in the show notes. Give her a good stock, try the products. I was lucky enough to get some products, so I cannot wait to go home and give myself a little pampering session. And thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome.